what you're looking at is the new, actually what we're calling the process manager. So right off the bat, we've changed the name of what used to be the server manager. So now we're calling it the process manager. It just kind of reflects where we're headed with the product. Certainly it is a capture forward product, and everything that we've done through the years in capture, we're continuing to build on. And so, but we are moving down the road into more of a process management and whole product sort of a concept. And we're still supporting all the back ends that we support and continue to add them for capture, but just a little bit more of an emphasis on the process. When we first created the product, it didn't do any workflow at all. It was basically just, scan or import and do some basic processing and then release to a repository. So the server manager, really, that's what it did. It just sort of managed your servers. But so process manager, we've really kind of retooled the UI on it just to streamline it. We've added some new features just really to help admins in their day-to-day, week-to-week tasks. Kind of notice that right off the bat, we've got this dashboard concept. And the dashboard is just designed to give you a system performance snapshot. So it's split into two halves. The left half is system activity, which is going to give you just a snapshot of system activity for the past, looking back for the past day, week, and month, essentially, for these three major categories that are pulled out of the metrics database inside Quillix. So you've got a snapshot to look at how many cases are coming in, how many are going out, and if there's any errors that are being generated in the system during that time frame. Based on that, then you can drill down using either the case management or the reports features. You can kind of drill down and see what's going on in further detail. Or you can just look at your system and see that it's rolling happily along, and you can go home and sleep at night and all those things. You can also refine that defaults to showing you these metrics for all processes, but you can also filter that by specific processes if you want to see what the activity is. Obviously, I haven't done anything in financial aid recently, so barcode process, I've got a little bit more things, and we've also got the little graph there to kind of show you what's going on as well. Now on the right half is just a quick list of queue activity. So it's going to list your queues, queues that contain items. If they don't have anything in them, they won't show up, but this is just more to give you a snapshot of how much you have sitting and how your work is distributed out into your system. But one of the new features we added here is the idea of what we call a hot queue. So if you'll notice here, I've got 3 queues in my list that contain items. The one at the top is red. And the reason it's red is because it has exceeded the threshold that we configured for it in order to be considered a hot queue. So that threshold is configurable for each queue in any process map. So for example, if you have a queue that you decided if it gets over 100, I want to be able to see that highlighted as a hot queue. I want to be able to be alerted to that condition. Then you can go in on the map and set that value to 100 for that queue. And then if it ever goes over that, then you'll see that here in this list. And you can also filter the list or sort the list by just clicking on them. So if you want all the hot items at the top, you can click on hot, or you can sort it by queue, name, or process, that kind of thing too. So kind of our new dashboard here. So we're excited about that. We're already hearing from people that this is a big help. We've kind of changed the layout a little bit. I mean, we still have the tab layout. If you're using Quillix 4, 5, or later, you've seen this tab layout that we have versus the old tree layout from 4.4 and earlier. But it allows you to go, to each one of your areas, servers and input. This is going to be very familiar to you. It may look a little different, but the concepts are all the same. Be able to start and stop your servers, add servers to a server group, create server groups, add input sources and batch profiles, all that. It's just a different interface and different layout. Batch profiles and document types. We've made some changes here just for manageability and ease of use. Of course, we've greatly expanded our icon base. So before, for any QSX, you would just have the same icon for every QSX. We've gone through and added specific icons for every one of our standard QSXs now. So it will give you a better kind of view of your process maps just by the virtue of we have an icon that more accurately represents what it does now. Most of those QSX still behave the same way, underneath the covers, still functionality, with the exception of now we have our server and all but one or two of our standard QSXs. We've now created a 64-bit version of those. I'll get into that in just a little bit when we kind of go through the overview. I'll circle back and hit the 64-bit topic. But one of the things we've done, and I don't know if you've ever worked in a Quillix system where you have a large number of batch profiles or document types, and they're similar in their layout for these tabs. Sometimes it can be kind of cumbersome to get to what you are looking for. So we've added the quick search feature, so you can just start typing. So if you have a long list of batch profiles or document types, all you have to do is start typing the first letter, second letter, and it will filter that list automatically for you, so you can just bring that up really quickly. So we've made some little changes like that through the UI in the process manager, just to make it easier to use and again, to get you quickly into what you need to do with this tool, which is manage your system. As far as features and things, pretty much the same, but I'll show you the hot queue. You go into the queue properties now. Oops, sorry, wrong dialog. If you go into queue properties now, you'll see we have this hot queue threshold. That's where you can set for a specific queue if you want to set a value in there so that you can see items that have too many things in them, so you can reconfigure your processes or redistribute some work or assign more users to that queue. That will allow you to do that. In the users area, we've done a lot of work to improve kind of the flow. Again, working with lots of users can sometimes be cumbersome when you have long lists and you have to kind of scroll through to find people. We've got the same thing now. I don't have too many in my system, but we've got the same kind of thing where I can filter my lists just by typing in a letter, and then I can find that particular user and hit the enter key, and I've got all of that user's stuff right on the screen. Similar kind of concept. You can set permissions, queue assignments, and access to document types right here all on this screen. The other thing that we did, we really retooled the UI to take advantage of today's screen resolutions, because all the screens today are a lot wider than they are tall. So we did some work to kind of rearrange the UI to really take advantage of that screen width and give you a better layout of everything you're looking at. I'll take just a minute to mention one thing since we're on the users tab here. We do have a new permission, and we have a new license feature now, and you'll see that one's called scan under the web permissions. So we've made that a separate right. We're starting with Quillix 5, so it's also a separate licensable component. Now we're grandfathering that in for all existing users. So Quillix 5 uses a new license file. So in order to upgrade, you'll have to get a new license file from us. But we are grandfathering in all the scan licenses. So we will give you one-to-one scans for however many web clients you've got. Going forward, though, those are separate. So you buy a web. Everything starts with a basic web client license, and then you would do an add-on license for however many scan licenses you want. Now, the scan license still behaves just like our web client license. It is concurrent. So For example, if you've got 50 base licenses but only 10 scan licenses, it'll let the first 10 people that are logged in that have the right, use the scan license until they're used up. But you can't control that by rights here. So if you want specific people only to use the scan, you can control it with their rights here. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, I think
how that works. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a change. I just, as we go through this, I just want to try to bring out the changes from previous versions. But that's a pretty big one, and you'll see that a little bit more over in the new client when we look at it. License management, it's pretty much, as it has been. You're going to be able to see, we give you a little bit more granularity in all of your components of your license and all your expiration dates and the components you've got, how many are in use. And of course you can import your license here. And you can still see, I'm not logged in on the client yet, and I don't have my server started at the moment, so neither one of those show up anything. But if I went over and started my server, that would show up in the server licenses. Same thing with client as people log in. You can manage your licenses here. We've done some work in case management. We have this case management tab now. So what this lets you do is basically search within the system for cases anywhere in the system, and you can enter in any criteria that you want to use for your search, whether it's the case name or your process or a status value, your event that you want to look in. If you don't enter a value, it just looks across all of those. Date ranges for date created and date in queue. And then you can run your search. It'll list everything that it finds. And of course, from there, you can look at the case history. You can print. We've added a lot of printing support now too, that's something that's new. So you can print right from here out to a printer, or you can export these to like a CSV. Any of these values, as before, you can change status values, apply them, move the cases to different place if you need to, all those things, just like before. So you can complete, delete if you have the rights, unlock, all those things you can do from the case management tab. Then we have reports, which reports is really, we used to call this audit log. We've changed the name to reports because as we move along, that's what's become. It's become more of a way to generate reports. And again, we added the printing and formatting of printing and exporting of any of these. So you can, again, select any of your criteria. Another big difference between reports and case management is case management is looking at cases that are out there. It's about what cases do I have in my system, where are they, who's working on them, and doing something specific with cases, moving them, changing their status values. Reports is more about historical information. I want to see activity that's happening in my system over a time period. And so that's what the big difference is. Again, you can create report filters with all this criteria, just like before, including all the different severity indicators. And then you can look, you can pick any date ranges you want, but we've got kind of these quick buttons just to do last 30 days, last 90 days, or the last year. And then you can run these reports and you get a list, but you can also print. We've got some printing in here. That's all new. Be able to just quickly print a report or export as well. You can export a report. And then you can save a report too. So once you've got a certain grouping of criteria together for filters, you can save those as a named report, and you can just recall that anytime and run it. So again, it's similar to what we had in previous versions. We've just made a few tweaks here and there. And then at the top of the screen here, you'll see we've got a couple of quick access buttons for doing things like accessing your QSX modules, and your general settings, invoking the performance monitor, and doing your process import and export. And you just click on those, for example, and you'll get all your QSXs, and you can manage them, or your general settings for the system, launch performance monitor, etc. Now, I do want to kind of circle back and talk about 64-bit for a minute. So one of the big things that we have in Quillix 5 is we now have a 64-bit server. So you can actually choose which one you want to install for Quillix 5. We also have the 32-bit. We just kept the 32-bit version mainly for just for backwards compatibility for some people, and to give people a bridge, realizing that not everybody, some people have custom QSX modules that are 32-bit that they just, it's going to take them some time to get those ported to 64-bit. We want to give people a bridge and not just say, well, everything has, it's an all or nothing proposition. So you can still install a 32-bit version if you want of Quillix 5 server, or you can install the 64-bit version of Quillix 5 server. And we're seeing, just in our testing here in our lab, we are seeing a little bit of a performance improvement running 64-bit server over 32-bit. 25 to 30%, just all other things equal. So there's probably, if you're a high volume shop, there's probably, pretty good incentive there to take a look at that 64-bit server. There are some considerations in the 64-bit server with regard to QSX modules. All of our QSX modules, we have 64-bit versions, except for a couple of really old ones that are really just legacy modules anyway. But we've made them where they'll all work with the 64-bit server. And there's one scenario where a 32-bit version will still work with the 64-bit server. In our release notes, which I'll make sure that you get a copy of after this call, in our release notes, we have a write-up on the whole 64-bit server and 32 versus 64-bit QSX support. And we've got a chart in there that kind of says, here's what's supported, here's what's not on each platform. But the short version of it is, on a 64-bit server, we support, of course, 64-bit QSX modules either as in-process or out-of-process, so DLL or XE versions of QSX modules. But we also support 32-bit out-of-process QSX modules. So if you have a 32-bit QSX module that was written as an out-of-process module, that's an XE, it will still run with the 64-bit server. Now, I wouldn't expect, there could be some, you're not going to get the same performance out of a 32-bit QSX running under the 64-bit as you would a 64-bit QSX running under 64-bit, but it does still give you a bridge or a way to still use legacy QSX modules with 64-bit server. So the other thing, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, that was our concern with proceeding with the upgrade, is that we've got we've got a lot of QSX logic. We were concerned about compatibility.
Yeah, are those? Do you know if those are in process or out of process?
Those are in process, I want to say. I don't know. I think Trevor joined. Trevor, do you happen to know?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're in process.
Okay. That's what I
Morning, Robert.
Yeah. So, hey, good morning, Trevor. So yeah, that's the one caveat. But still, it might be, and it's something you might want to take a look at. It might not be too difficult to port those to out-of-process 32-bit. That would still probably be easier than porting them all the way to 64-bit. And you would have to recompile them anyway for Quillix 5, just because the interface has changed a little bit. You'd want to recompile anyway, even if we did support 32-bit in process, you'd still have to recompile it. So that's you're probably your shortest path to getting those working with the 64-bit server is recompile it with the Quillix 5 SDK as an out process. And should work. probably the biggest single thing we did for Quillix 5 was we completely rewrote the client. It's completely new code, all from the ground up, because we knew that we had to get away from ActiveX in the client, and we wanted to go with a pure HTML5 browser play. So we did that, we accomplished that, and that's, I think, over the last, however many years we've been doing this at Prevalent, this is one of the things I'm most excited about and most proud of, because we had some big obstacles to overcome, and we really had to invent some new technology to get this accomplished. But I really believe we've succeeded. And as you'll see here, I'm running the Chrome browser on Windows, but because we now have a pure HTML5 client, it'll run in any modern browser. So we support Chrome, we support the new Edge browser on Windows, which of course is not ActiveX. We support Firefox, Vivaldi, Opera, all on Windows, but we also support those on Mac as well. Safari on Mac, and Mac versions of Chrome, etc. So the only caveat there is we don't yet support scanning on the Mac. So we support all the other browser client features except for scanning. Of course, the issue with scanning is there's a hardware interface, and so we do plan to support scanning on the Mac, but that's something that we're still working through the issues of toying on the Mac and things like that. But we hope to, by the end of this year, have that available. But I'll just log in to the client, and of course you're going to see the client was completely different. We've made a lot of changes in the client. Our goals were this. First of all, we wanted to get rid of ActiveX and have a pure HTML5 client. That's a goal we achieved. Second goal was we wanted to preserve every feature that we had before. I mean, every feature, and we achieved that as well. And then a side benefit of all of that was we really, I believe, have been able to streamline and make some improvements just in the UI and flow of working in the client. And we're just getting tremendous feedback on that from existing users. They just love it because it's just so much more intuitive and easy to use. So let me start with this dashboard. So I log in, and now I have my own user dashboard. And as a user, it just gives me a quick snapshot of items that I have, work that I have done over the past day, week, and month. Just all it is just a visual cue, just to give somebody a kind of a milestone, a mile marker as I'm working through. Of course, if they just got back from vacation and see those zeros up there, then they go, "Oh, well, it's starting over." But it does just kind of give a person an idea of kind of what they've been able to accomplish. In the previous versions, we had a kind of a home page with lists of items and queues and local batches that hadn't been released yet. We took that concept and we really tried to improve on it and make it more useful. So we still have that. So you've got a list of queues, but I can expand these now, expand and collapse these as I want to, and look at each one in detail and see what's in them. And again, because we try to make a use of screen real estate, I can page through these now. I don't have infinitely scrolling lists and things like that go on forever. But we've also tried to provide some usefulness. So we've got quick links now right from the dashboard. So for any item in a queue, I can jump into the product anywhere using a quick link. So I can jump right to index for this batch, or jump right to redact or classify just by clicking on one of these quick links. If I have the rights, I can also complete it from here or delete a case right from here too. So it gives the user a little bit of ability, if they have the rights, to manage and clean up and monitor all the work that they kind of have. And just to kind of show you how this works, I'm going to take this, I'm going to click on this and just jump right into indexing. So if I click on that, boom, it throws me right into the indexing page and I'm ready to go. this is a real nice productivity feature, and we're getting some great feedback from users on this. So I will bounce back to that dashboard real quick before I continue on. The other thing we have, because a lot of things changed in the way the client works now. You know, in previous versions, use an ActiveX control heavily. So we moved a lot of files back and forth between the server and the clients because the ActiveX control worked on local files, local on the machine. And so we had to, by nature of the way that worked, move it. You know, whenever somebody locked a case or locked a batch or a document, we actually copied all those files down to the local machine, and they worked on those local copies. And then when they completed it, we moved them back up to the server and to replace the original versions in case they modified them. That's a lot of back and forth file moving. Well, since the whole concept of the web client's been re-architected, so we no longer do that. Everything's on the server now, all the time. No files come down to the client at all for viewing or otherwise. So we still have the concept, though, of a local queue. So we're calling it a local queue. Before it was local batches, because when you scanned or imported a batch in the previous version, it actually created that on the local machine, and it wasn't visible, or it wasn't anywhere other than that local machine until they first released it. Well, now, right when you create it and scan or upload or import, everything's immediately uploaded to the server. So everything always resides on the server. The concept of the local queue, though, is there to preserve this idea of I, as a logged in user, just created a new batch or a new document, and I haven't started it into a process yet. So even though its files and information are on the server, it's still only visible to me as a local case or a local batch. And until I complete it that first time, it's not going to actually start into its process. So it's kind of a hybrid from what it was before. It still preserves the concept from before, but its physical implementation is different. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. So let's jump into Capture. So if I go into the Capture tab, I'm going to unlock this case that I was working on, that I loaded earlier. Start from new. So it's similar in concept. You can kind of notice, this is where I want to point out some user interface changes. We no longer have a big queue at the bottom, queue list at the bottom of the screen. We reimagined that, and what we came up with in talking to a lot of users and just discussing amongst ourselves was taking, we realized there's common things across all the different tabs: capture, index, classify, index, redact. And so we took all those common elements and put them into what we're calling a case toolbar. So that case toolbar now is at the top. No matter what tab you're on, that case toolbar stays up there. And the case toolbar gives you access to your queues and a queue list. So I can open up my queue list at any time and select items from the queue, or I can still do auto load. I can turn that on and off just by clicking on that. Or I can just use the pick list to select queues and cases as well. So that's kind of a new feature that, again, we're hearing great feedback from users, because it kind of gets that queue list out of the way, frees up screen real estate for people to see really what they need to work on. And then they can always recall it either very quickly by the drop downs or by pulling up the queue list. Now, to scan and import from the Capture tab, we'll click on that import button and create a new batch. And then, just like before, you can select your input source, your scanner source or file import, your profile, auto batch naming, and you can take care of that. In this case, I'm going to import some files. Now, one of the big differences is in real time, this is as it's acquiring images, whether it's through import or whether it's through scanning, it is uploading these to the server. Okay, so you'll see that happening kind of in the background, and putting those up on the server. So you've got now your new batch pages. Now, one of the things that's also brand new is the viewer. So this viewer is completely new and expandable and collapsible, and detachable and everything else. So it's really slick. We put a lot of time into the viewer. Again, all HTML5. Still has all the features you had before. It's got some additional features as well. So you can still do the rubber band zoom like we used to do. But you've got a nice little flyout menu here. And I can also do panning. So I'll zoom here and get a zoom. We've added, I know a lot of people already have had this for a long time, but we haven't. So this is kind of nice that now you can actually pan your image around by clicking and dragging, and things like that. So, and this little flyout lets you select all your different modes for zooming, panning, and we've got your cropping here as well from the flyout. Again, all your rotation, all your batch, QC, insert, append, replace, zooming, previous, next, go to, fits. Those are all there, just like before. Detachable viewer, still there. That was a tricky one, but we nailed it. We got it done. Something we really want to preserve from previous versions. And from here, again, you can access your case toolbar to complete this, or unlock it, or if you have the rights to delete it or set the status values, all on the Capture tab. So you can, again, anytime you can pull up your queue list and you can look at your batches. There's a batch I just created, bar 62. Pretty easy. I'm going to skip classify for now. Well, I'll just go ahead and touch on it. Classify is the one, even though we completely rewrote it from scratch, it's pretty much just like it was before in its behavior and functionality. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. It works just like it did before. We just rewrote it and put it in the new web client. I do want to spend some time on index because we've put a lot of work into this as well. In the idea of taking advantage of the wider screens, we've given you much more utilization, better utilization of the width of the screen by giving you your case list here. So you can see all the pages, you see the batch, you can see as you create documents, you'll see them in the list, and you can use that for navigation of your case, jumping anywhere you want to view, or you can drag and drop these just like you could before. And then you got your indexing panel. Again, we completely, this is all brand new code, but we completely recreated it, fully supporting everything we've had before. Pick lists, tape pickers, database lookup, that's what you're remember. Database lookup, field masking, everything. We've added a few other little things, and again, we've kind of refined the UI to make it a little bit more intuitive. Now, one thing we've done is you've now got the thumbnails up. Before, thumbnails, it was an either or. You had to toggle between full screen mode or thumbnail mode. You didn't get both. So now you have both. So I can use thumbnails for navigation just by clicking and selecting. But one of the things that I really love, and I think is going to be helpful, is we now have drag and drop page reordering by thumbnails. So I can just click on a thumbnail, I can move it to a different location and reorder it that way. So ta-da! That was a big one I wanted to have, and we've gotten a lot of requests for that. The other thing that we've got is the ability to kind of arrange your screen. So realizing that not everybody, some people would prefer to have their index values next to the full screen image versus the thumbnails next to the full screen image. So you can toggle those. So you can switch those around and swap positions, if you will, so that I got my thumbnails and kind of navigation in this area. I've got my indexing, right next to the full screen image. We also still support zoom to zone. So if you've got zoom zones defined for document types, that's all still in there. I don't know if you guys have done much with Redact or if you even need it, but we do have Redact, it's a high-speed Redact capability using OCR. It is an additional kind of add-on license to get this, but if you need redaction for any reason, the whole idea here is you can do pattern searches, like I'm looking for socials, I'm looking for emails, I'm looking for phone numbers, and it will search through the batch or the document and find all occurrences of those and give you a list, and then just very quickly you go boom, 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 yeah, accept it, or manually add a redaction if it didn't find one, and then it just gives you a way to do very high-speed redaction of a large volume of documents if you need that. So let me think if there's anything I'm missing here. I've given you a lot of stuff in a short period of time, so let me let you guys ask some questions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess my big question: what sort of configuration overhead is there at go live? Do I need to, reconfigure a bunch of things in my processes, or is the changes that you're talking about?
Yeah, so let me just kind of give you the upgrade path, what you're going to need to do to upgrade. So it's actually pretty painless. Everything converts over. So if you have existing processes and items in there, then when you run the upgrade utility, it will convert all that over. So really, it should preserve everything you've got out there, all your process maps, all your configurations and everything should port over. You might have to tweak just some positioning here and there on the maps, but honestly, I haven't really seen that much. Of course, we always recommend you do a backup, or and probably what you'll want to do is install this in your test system. And yeah, I'd recommend just run it in the test system, even having some cases and some processes out there and see how they port over, just to make sure. That's always a good plan. But by design, it should port everything over, and there should be very little you really have to do to get up and running. But probably the biggest thing is just going to be your QSX modules. Just getting those running. Okay. From the client standpoint, the rollout is easy as it could possibly be. I mean, all you have to do, because it's literally a pure HTML5 browser app now. Mm-hmm. So once you get the web client up and running, the web app on the web server up and running, people just connect to it, browse out to it, and they're in. So.
All right, and then as far as the QSXs, so you can recompile and run legacy QSXs, but they would be 32-bit still?
Yes. Yeah, if you recompile them as a 32-bit out of process, as an exe, and we've helped some other people do that, and we can help you do that. Obviously we don't know your code, but we can point you in the right direction. If you need assistance with how to do it as an out of process versus an in process, but you probably already know all that. But we've done that. Matter of fact, we did it with some of our own QSXs. We did that as well, because we have a few older QSXs that we really aren't even selling anymore, but we have a few customers for whatever reason that are still using them and need them, so we just wanted to allow them to upgrade but still use those. And whenever you're ready, the steps are we'll get you a new license file and get you the installers to install the product. Oh, I also forgot about one thing. I forgot to show you another thing. We've redone all the help system, and so the help system is it's all online now. So now we had a few people that said, well, we don't want it online, we want to have a hard copy of it. So we also have a PDF version of it, but everything is kind of out here. We give you we've redone the help system, so there's a lot of info on the help system as well. When you get the release notes, there's links and stuff into the help as well. You don't even have to be running the product to access the help system. So both for client and for admin as well, you can access the help. And the help is fully responsive in case you want to pull it up on a mobile device.
That really looks good, Robert. I like the new look and feel a lot.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that. as well. So we're getting good feedback on it.